So in this first session, we are looking at transition into adolescence. And let me begin by saying that we don't really focus too much on the word teenager. We prefer to use the word adolescent because there is nothing magical about teenage. That word has significance in the English language, but in other languages, there is no specific word that defines age 13 to age 19. So I'm going to begin this series by looking at different stages of growth of a child as they go into the adult stage of life. Let's look at the infant. An infant is just a fancy name for a baby. Their biggest need is trust. An infant is born and they can't do hardly anything for themselves. They rely on others to do things for them. When they wet their diaper, they rely on their parents to change that diaper. When they are hungry, they cry and they expect that you know what that cry means. And it's amazing how young parents somehow just get to know what it means. We move from there to the young child stage. Ages 3 to 6, they are learning to be independent. They are walking, they have been potty trained, and they are following you everywhere like a shadow, and they are learning from you as they move around. Move on to ages 6 to 10. They are taking initiatives. They are going to school. You want to dress them. They don't want to be dressed. They can do it all by themselves. And they are growing, and you're glad they are growing. And then let's move on to the teenage stage of life. And some parents are dreading this stage of life. Parents, there is nothing to dread. This is the second fastest growing stage in the child's life. When they are infants, they grow very quickly. They move to the teenage stage of life. They're growing really rapidly. Now remember this, parents. Your teenager has never been a teenager. Your 14-year-old has never been 14. They don't know how to be 14. And the big thing in this stage of life is a search for identity. They are starting to understand themselves. They are looking for, what do I want to be? What do I want to do with my life? And as you meet them at different stages, they tell you what they want to become. At one time, they want to become a doctor. At another time, they want to become a teacher. At another time, they want to become a pilot. And for the parent who is inexperienced, they are frustrated by their teenager being all over the place. Really, they are not all over the place. They're just expressing a desire to become someone. And the person they talk to you latest about is the person they spend time with. And instead of being frustrated, be intrigued by this teenager who wants to be a pilot today and wants to be an artist tomorrow. And some of their desires are not mutually exclusive. They could be an artist and still be a pilot for profession, and one is for a hobby. Don't be frustrated by their changing needs and their changing desires. And soon they move into the young adult stage. And this young adult stage of life, ages 20 to 40, this is the time where intimate relationships are established. Most people who get married in this stage of life. They are learning to be close to one another. They are making commitments to one another. They are making commitments to an employer. They are making commitments to a bank for a mortgage. They are making commitments to a landlord. Now listen carefully, parents. If the search for identity did not complete at the teenage stage of life, this will go on into the young adult stage of life. Also, if teenagers become sexually active, it sort of short circuits their whole process of growing up, their whole process of search for identity, and they come into the young adult stage carrying baggage. And many of you who are counselors will find out that many people who are struggling with marriage and relationships as young adults and older adults, these issues did not begin at that stage of life. They were revealed at that stage of life, but in fact, they began much earlier. Let's move on to the middle adult, ages 40 to 65. This is the age where most parents of teenagers fall. They'll be give and take a few years. So there are parents I know who are in their 70s and have teenagers, but I also know parents who are in their late 20s and have teenagers. But most parents of teenagers are in the age group 40 to 65. It's a time where they are creative and they are nurturing. They stay productive, they have a sense of purpose, but there are demands on their lives, demands at work, demands in the home. And guess what wins? For the most part, what wins are the demands from work. And the teenagers fall between the cracks. And the last stage I want to talk about is the older adult, age 65 and above. This is the age of your parents. Many people in this stage of life, they love their life or they regret it. They look back on life and you ask them, how is Moses doing? And they scratch their heads and say, Moses, he got out of jail last week. Oh, how about Monica? She's okay. She's on her third marriage. Ooh, how about Shadrach? Shadrach is back in drug rehabilitation. Friends, you don't want to give that narrative when you get to that age. You want to be involved with your teenagers, to walk with them. And if they make wrong decisions, you will be sad, but you will not be guilty.